Have you ever wanted to use music in your tabletop role-playing games? Well, listen up because that's what this video is going to be all about. I'm going to be talking about some of the pitfalls that I have faced when using music at my table, when maybe not to use it, and some suggestions about what kinds of music to use. So the first thing you want to assess is, do you even need music at your table in the first place? Music can add a lot to your table. It can bring up lots of emotions. It can add to the narrative elements of the theme and setting, but it can also prevent people from hearing what's going on. And you want to avoid your players not knowing what's going on. In fact, playing the game is about communicating, and anything that interrupts that communication is going to be a hindrance to your game. Music can be one of those. Here are some common places where these hindrances often show up. First, if you've got somebody in your playgroup that's hard of hearing. If they can't hear normally, then adding music can sometimes make that even harder for them. So one thing to remember is to know your players. And if somebody comes to you and says, hey, when you play that music, it makes it hard for me, make some adjustments. I'll talk about some things you might do in a second. Whoa, did you know that you can get supplements for Along the Ley Line for free? That's right, all you have to do is sign up to the Substack and you can get zines like this for free. This one's Temple of Bones. It's a whole adventure. And this one is all about these cool new species raccoonteers. This one's got forests on it, and it's got forest folk in it, an expansion for players. It's awesome. Sign up now. It's free. Another area is if you're at a convention or somewhere there's a lot of noise around you. If there's already a bunch of noise, then hearing already is a challenge. You don't want to add even more challenges to that. Another area you might not want to be using music is if the people just don't like having music on for some reason. If they're not enjoying it, then don't use it. Another area is online. If you're playing online, there's already a barrier between hearing people and understanding everything they're saying. So adding another layer on top of that can make it even more difficult. Now, some things you can do if you're in one of these scenarios, you want to use music, but people are hard of hearing, or you're playing online, or you're somewhere loud, or people just don't really like music. A compromise that you can do is to use the music as intros or outros or transitions. So when you enter the dungeon, you can play a little bit of music. When you go into combat, you can play a little bit of music. When they go into the inn or in town, you can kind of intro with a little section of a song and then move on and turn it off, and then you can have your normal conversations. So that way you get kind of the elements of the music, but it doesn't actually hinder you from being able to discuss what's going on at the table. This is also really nice if you can have something prepared for these moments, and it can make a part of your planning just a little bit more robust. Now that you have decided whether or not you're going to use music, let's talk about how you might get that music. You need some place of playing the music. So most people have phones. You can use your phone to stream music at the table. You can also use a laptop. You can use some kind of sound system, a boom box, a cassette tape, vinyl. Think about what's going to work best for you. I use my phone and I stream Spotify, but a lot of people use different web streaming services as well. You can stream music from YouTube, Apple, Amazon, Pandora, SoundCloud. There's a lot of different places you can stream music from. Pick one and go with it. Now, a lot of these services have advertisements on them, and that can really dampen your mood, especially if you're playing a super immersive game. So I recommend paying for whatever subscription you want on one of those so you can not have any ads play in the middle of your song, because that can really dampen the mood. You want to remember when you're playing the music not to have the music too loud or too quiet. If it's too quiet, nobody can even really hear it, and it doesn't actually like add to the game. It's like you're not even playing the music at all. And you don't want it too loud either, because then people are having to shout over each other. And again, that's just getting in the way of people communicating, and that's what you don't want at the table. You don't want the music to become a problem, a barrier for the game. You want it to be a bonus. You want it to add to the game and make it better. Now that you've got your device, whatever you're going to play it on, and you know the streaming services that you're going to be pulling the music from, now you need music. You want music to hit the theme that you're going for. You want it to have the kind of punch and flavor to add to your game. You may not want heavy metal rock music at your funeral scene, or maybe you do, because that would be awesome, but you want to pick the right kind of flavor at the right time. You don't want super chill, lo-fi beats in the middle of your boss coming out. Unless you do, because that would be awesome. Subvert expectations, y'all. Okay, well, here's some suggestions I have for you when you're choosing your music. You really want to avoid having any kind of lyrics in your songs. Now, you can kind of fudge this one if you're using intros and outros or transition pieces for music and you're just stealing a segment. Totally fine, use lyrics. But if you're going to be having the music on while you're playing and somebody is singing and now you're trying to listen to the 5 other people at the table, now your brain is split up in like 6 different ways and it's hard to hear what's going on. So I recommend getting instrumental music to listen to. Avoid lyrics, because that's going to be a hindrance to understanding. The second thing you want to look out for in music, even if it's super flavorful, you want to avoid music that has lots of dynamics. And that means when it gets really, really loud and then really, really quiet. Because when it does that, it makes it hard for you to manage the volume in the song. If you want it to grow and swell like that, you're going to really have to plan out when you use those kind of high dynamic songs and try to adjust the table for it. Now you can do it, and I've done it at my table, but more often than not, if I'm kind of tired and not really paying attention, then those high dynamic songs just become more of a hindrance than they are a help. So you want the dynamics to be really even and really flat. Now luckily, a lot of the ambient music that's coming out today and almost all rock and roll is really, really even on dynamics. It's got the same kind of volume through the whole song, so picking those is always a solid okay. We're gonna avoid those pitfalls we talked about. Now it's time to think about the themes that you want in your music. Now whenever we go to combat in my table, I like to play heavy metal music or intense, high activity songs, high beats per minute, right? It's gotta really get your juices flowing. The other thing that I might use is a really dark and brooding song, especially if they are going up against some kind of boss that would be dark and brooding, like some kind of like Spider Queen or Demon Lord or Vampire. You know, you wanna flavor those songs to the kind of monsters. Now, if you're just trying to get some general songs, there's a lot of people who have come up with excellent playlists, links in the description below. But I do want to really quickly shout out interesting kind of metal music that has a lot of instrumental songs and really heavy riffs. Check out some gent metal. Gent metal has lots of really hard and it can really kind of get you in the mood, and most of it's instrumental. There's not a whole lot of singing there. So gent instrumental is a great choice for combat. Now, your whole campaign isn't going to be combat, unless it is, because that would be awesome. But if it's not all combat, then you're going to want different kinds of music. When you're moving into town and when things are kind of calm, you might pick an ambient background noise. Now, Syrinscape is an app that you can use that has all kinds of background music, and I think you can even add your own in. Now I'll go ahead and let you know I'm not affiliated at all with Syrinscape. I just think they have this interesting product that you might be interested in too. And one thing I know they do pretty well is this background stuff for ends. in taverns. So if you want that like clicking and clacking of different like plates and trays and stuff in the background, and kind of like the sounds of people talking but not actually people talking, then Syrinscape is really good at doing that for you. So that would be something good to add whenever you're in a city or a town or a pub or an inn or something like that. The last suggestion I will give you is for when you're traveling or when you're out on an adventure but you're not actually in combat. I like to use video game music. There's lots of different video game music out there. You know, you could be listening to Skyrim, you could be listening to Link and what is it? It's not Link, it's like the Zelda soundtrack. There's lots of them out there, and they're pretty like meandering and have a lot of like heavy like dun 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 dun, and get you kind of going, making you feel like you're on an adventure. And that's where I really like to use that kind of music. Now, there's lots of different suggestions that you can use. There's lots of different playlists that you can pull from that has all kinds of great music. Go out there, listen for a bit, and pick them out. Now, I do want to give you one last bit of advice, and that is if you're going to have a really flavorful boss fight, one thing you can do is make your own playlist. You can go and listen to music and pull certain things that you want. For one of the games that I played, I wanted this like spidery, silky, like really stringy, high intensity music. And I looked for and found all of those bits because I wanted to be like full of dread. And so having that like high violin and cello on the strings really brought that creep in. And when I used it at the table, it had exactly the effect I want. And I'm telling you this not to be like, oh, what a wonderful referee I am. No, what I'm saying is if you spend some time actually picking your playlist for the specific event, you can really have a great impact on the mood and the overall tone of your game. Now, I wouldn't do this for every single game, but if you're gonna have like the end of a session or maybe the start of a session, like the start of a campaign or the end of a campaign, and you're gonna have a boss fight, picking the theme for that boss at the beginning and then whenever they return could be really epic. And then for the conclusion, have an entire playlist that sort of revolves around that sound that you built up for them can be pretty epic. And the nice thing is, once you've got this playlist, it's gonna be there for you forever. You can use it again and again. Essentially what I'm trying to get here is, if you take the time to prep music, it can be really awesome and enjoyable for your table. Not only that, you can share your love of music, if you like music, with the other people at your table, get some cool recommendations, and expand your mind. Well, I hope you've picked up a few tips about how to use music at your table when you're role-playing. And role-playing doesn't have to just be all these music stuff, doesn't have to just be for fantasy. You can use them for sci-fi, post-apocalyptic, horror, all kinds of them. Music fit in. And there is different tones and different sounds and different playlists you can use for each one of those. Well, please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching so far. And I hope all of your games are full of dread and laughter.